Hello, I'm Adam.
And I'm disappointed. I'm Adrian.
I'm that as well. Welcome to Cast from the Crypt. Today we're talking about, of course, the final installment of the new Halloween trilogy, Halloween Ends. We just saw it together the night it released, didn't we?
We did.
We were in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
So, this movie.
I'm glad we got to see it together.
Yeah. I would have been sad if I didn't see it. I'm a little sad anyway. The initial feelings, of course, when you watch a movie in the theater, one that you've been anticipating for a long time, are always going to be strong. And the emotions were strong. But now I think I can speak for both of us when I could say that we've had time to digest what we saw.
Yeah.
And I have a calmer opinion with a little more nuance. So
I do too. So, let's get this out of the way. It's a new movie. People might stumble upon this that haven't seen the movie. Do not listen to this if you haven't seen the movie. Or do, if you don't care. But we're obviously going to be discussing some plot points. I gotta say, I didn't expect much from this movie. I didn't think Halloween Kills was very good. I actually rewatched Halloween 2018. I just got Sling TV. Okay. Not sponsored, but I was able to record a showing of Halloween 2018, and I rewatched it in a couple of sittings. And man, that's a pretty damn good movie. That's a pretty damn good reboot / requel. I enjoyed it a lot, and I don't necessarily think it gets the tone of the 1978 film 100%. I think it certainly capitalizes on what people like about some of the other Halloween sequels where Micheal Myers is this unstoppable beast of a man. But as far as a movie goes, it's a decent hour and a half. Halloween Kills is ridiculous, and though the kills are fun in that movie, the movie's just it's a cluster. It's really, really poorly done, very chaotic, in my view. I know you had fun with it, and I also had fun with it, but it's a sloppy movie in my opinion. This movie, it's tough, man, because I think this is a concise film. I think it's a film with a lot of vision. But in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I just do not think it really delivers for the majority of people. And I have a lot of thoughts because I, just like you, have read a lot of reviews since we watched this. I have watched a lot of reviews from people I really enjoy their content and trust. And so my opinion has changed, but my enjoyment of this film is still the same. I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of crappy.
Yeah. So the Halloween franchise is a little bit different than maybe some other slasher franchises that came out around that time, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Or, that's the Holy Trinity. Friday the 13th is more of a franchise than it is just one movie. We don't even see Jason get his iconic mask until the third movie. If you ask someone what their favorite Friday the 13th movie is, it could be anything. Like, it really could be any of the movies. Same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy doesn't get his kind of comical, snarky personality until later on. It's something that has to develop. But Halloween is a movie that first movie is it. That is Halloween, okay? If you ask anyone what their favorite Halloween movie is, 99% of the time they're going to say the first movie. And I, this lovely month of October, have watched almost all of the Halloween movies. I've seen almost all of them now. And I can very honestly say that the quality drops dramatically very quickly. After the second movie, it's like downhill from there. A lot of the movies are boring, a lot of it is repetitive. And so with this franchise, for me, what makes a movie in this franchise good is how much I enjoy it, how fun it is, how great the kills are. You know, I'm here for it to just be a slasher and nothing else, nothing more. It's just a slasher. This genre, or this franchise does not have many strong entries like maybe some of the others do. So Halloween 2018 came out, and that was easily the strongest movie, maybe since the second one. Its sequel, Halloween Kills, like you said, a mess, but I had fun with it. The kills are fun. He goes on a rampage. Like, by the end of the day, I am here to see Micheal Myers. That is the attraction. He is the attraction. I'm here to see him, and I'm here to see him just cut up a bunch of people. And that is what this movie fails to really deliver, and that is the main gripe I have with this movie.
My opinion changed a little bit because in the beginning, right, when we were watching the movie, I thought, surely they're going to have Michael come out of this dingy little cave that he is living in by, the hour mark. I enjoyed the first 30 minutes of this movie. I thought that the new character, what's his name again?
Corey.
Corey. I actually quite enjoyed Corey. We have this character that is severely affected by an incident that took place about a year prior to the events of the current movie. He was babysitting. There was this horrific accident. He was taking care of this snot-nosed bratty kid that locked him in a closet. And when he kicked the door open, the kid got hit by the door, flew over the rail of a staircase, and fell to his death. And now he's labeled a kid killer. He is seen as the town pariah. We, of course, know that it was an accident because we saw the whole thing take place in the cold open. And so we identify with Corey out the gate. Corey is introduced to Laurie Strode's granddaughter, played by Andy Matichak. What's that character's name? Allison?
Yeah, Allison.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the cast. It's spelled annoying.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. He's introduced to Allison by Laurie Strode because she knows he's a reject, and so is she, and so is her family. And the first 30 minutes are cute. You get this really nice kind of relationship work that's brewing, and I thought the performances were decent. I thought the relationship was cute, but there was no Micheal Myers. And I, of course, bought the tickets because that's what I wanted.
Whose face is on the cover?
Right. The way this movie was marketed was Micheal Myers and Laurie Strode have their final stand. That's what sold the tickets. That is not what this movie is. My issue with it is not so much that it fancies itself a commentary on the ever-changing shape of evil, right? Because we have this innocent character, Corey, that really never did anything wrong. He was wrong place, wrong time, and he's labeled a murderer for it. And then we, of course, have Micheal Myers, the true villain, the true ghost lingering over Haddonfield. And now that Micheal Myers has been gone for 4 years, people want something else to direct their vitriol towards. And that's what Corey is. And I like that, right? I think that is an interesting premise, and I buy it. I even am okay with the fact that Corey is eventually corrupted by evil. They have this sequence in the movie where Corey is relentlessly bullied by these marching band kids, which I think is hilarious that the bullies in this movie are marching band kids. He's like 21, 22, and these kids are 16, 17, 18. And it's just horrible to watch. It's obviously gut-wrenching because A, it's hard to watch anybody get assaulted on the street. But B, right, they're teenagers and they're beating up this young adult. And it's just, you hurt for the guy, right? And you know he doesn't really deserve it. Well, anyway, they end up, after like the second altercation, they throw him over a bridge. And it's one of our first glimpses at Micheal Myers. We learn that under that bridge, where there's also a homeless man living, Micheal Myers is living in the sewer like a rat. He's been hiding in the sewer for 4 years in Haddonfield. Why? I don't know. He's still wearing the mask. He's wearing the same jumper. But that's where he's at. That's where he's been for 4 years, supposedly. Corey gets dragged in, and Micheal Myers starts to choke him out. He's about to kill him. Corey, as Micheal Myers, is slowly taking the life out of him, squeezing it out. He sees his life flash before his eyes. He sees that horrific incident that took place with the child. And we, the audience, we're left to believe that some sort of transfer has happened, because Corey escapes. He makes it out alive. Rarely do we see a character escape Micheal Myers.
Well, not only does he escape,
yeah,
Michael lets him leave. He's choking him to death, and then he stops.
Right, you're right. And the implication is, of course, that the evil has spread. The Michael that we meet in this movie is not the Michael we saw in Halloween Kills. In Halloween Kills, they establish he is practically a demigod. He's evil incarnate. He is immortal. In this movie, he's weak. He hasn't killed in 4 years, and I believe the implication is that he feeds off of the murder, right? He feeds off of his evil deeds. And he hasn't fed in 4 years, and thus he's weak. And he nearly gets Corey, but there's some sort of transfer that takes place. And when Corey escapes, he has a change in disposition. He's evil now, or so he's infected, right? And that's the premise of this movie. The changing shape of evil. And so begins the long 2-hour journey with Corey, where we wanted to see Michael and we don't. We see Corey. Now, in premise, I'm fine with evil transferring. I actually think it's quite cool. But the issue that I have with this movie is no longer that I didn't see Michael enough. Because that was my initial issue. The issue is that the execution of this Corey storyline was so poorly done, probably because of studio intervention eventually, that it just overall resulted in nothing. We still, at the very end of the movie, in the last 10 minutes, we have a showdown between Michael and Laurie. If you wanted Corey to become the big bad, why didn't he? Why did we only get 10 minutes of Michael screen time at the very end? It felt like somebody stepped in and told David Gordon Green, hey, you can't do this. People want Michael. But when that happens, now there's not enough of him to even justify that choice. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to have two different movies, and it ends up being one movie that is two halves of other movies, and it ends up pleasing no one. If that makes sense.
No, it does.
Okay, yeah.
I was shocked to see some of the people I really admire that cover horror movies really, really enjoyed this movie. And the opinion that's floating out there is Halloween Ends is actually quite good, and people are just being piss babies because they didn't get the Micheal Myers movie that they wanted. They didn't get the formula that they enjoy. And while I understand that opinion, I think that's oversimplifying the issue here. Because I don't think this movie is bad because Micheal Myers wasn't in it. I think that's part of the reason it's bad. I think this movie is bad because you've established a trilogy where Micheal Myers is the villain. There's two movies in which Laurie and Michael are dueling, and that is what we're building to. So, in the scope of this trilogy, this movie is a poor choice. Now, if we go straight from Halloween 2018, let's go straight from Halloween 1978 and say that the last two movies, Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills never happened, then sure, that transfer of evil, the evil changing shape thing that they want to establish in this movie might work. But it's this ham-fisted plot that they try to drive in the third entry of an established trilogy. So it doesn't work in the scope of this trilogy that they've created. And in the movie itself, the standalone work that is the movie, they take a shortcut at the end. Corey kills himself for no apparent reason, really. I mean, he tries to frame Laurie Strode for the murder, but then we get a 10-minute sequence with Michael and he dies, and it's just fruitless. So I disagree with those condescending reviews. I watched a few, Adam, and I'm telling you, like, people were mad that people didn't like this movie because they basically chalked it up to, you were too dumb to understand it. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that you're pretending that this movie was far more impactful and better than it was. This movie failed as an entry in a trilogy, and it failed as a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
I mean, simply put, sure, there was some interesting ideas, but the implementation of those ideas was a failure. And that does not make a good movie. It means the movie failed to do what it was trying to do, no matter how creative or different it was.
I hate to just sit here and nod and agree with you, but those were my feelings exactly. Part of the biggest problem with this movie is that it ignores everything set up in the last movie and the movie before that. The last time we see Michael before this movie, there's always been this sort of vague, ambiguous question of, is Michael Myers supernatural? Like, he kind of is, but there's no concrete way you could describe him as such. And at the very end of Halloween Kills, they pretty much confirm, yes, he is. He is immortal. They kill him. They virtually kill him. And he gets back up and kills everybody that had been attacking him. Okay, Michael is immortal. He is this monster. He's supernatural. How can you stop him? The last thing we see is Michael becoming a literal superhuman force. And what's the first thing we see in this movie? What's the first time we see Michael? He's decrepit. He's old. They did all this build-up just to have, like, an ineffective Michael Myers.
Not just that. He literally lives in the sewer. He is covered in shit. Like, it's just the biggest departure. And I understand 4 years have passed. I get it. But the lore of Michael Myers hasn't even yet clearly been established in this trilogy. This movie was a perfect opportunity to explain what was giving him those powers. Was it the mask? Was it his proximity to the Myers house? There was all these things that they were setting up, and we just never got there. And I just can't believe some of the stuff that I've read and heard. I think that I think people desperately want to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I did too, but I can't. The best way to watch this movie is going into it, separate it from the context of the Halloween franchise. Like, pretend this is not a Halloween movie. Then I think you might enjoy it a little more. But even still, like, as a standalone movie, like, it's kind of mid, isn't it? Like you said, the whole movie we're building up Corey. He's the next Michael. He's the next serial killer in Haddonfield, Illinois. Only for him to peace out. Like, literally stabs himself. And that's the end of him, I guess. And then the movie spends the majority of its runtime putting Michael Myers in the back seat and ignoring him and focusing on Corey, only for the last 10 minutes to backseat Corey. Now they're ignoring Corey. They're writing him off and trying to bring back Michael, and that does not work at all. And it feels like no one has won.
Yeah, I agree.
In a way, they also kind of, like, Laurie is like she's the pumpkin pie baking happy grandma who suddenly Halloween is her favorite holiday. I like the idea of her, like, she's moved on with her life. She's writing a book about how she found a way to move on. I can accept that all, but it's kind of not really touched upon. Another thing, the literal last thing we saw in the last movie, I think, the last scene is her daughter being murdered by Michael Myers. She's lived her whole life in fear of Michael Myers. She became this gun-toting, paranoid person in her adult life because of Michael Myers, only to have him come back, go on a killing spree, and murder her daughter, and then 4 years later, suddenly she's over it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with her being over it, too, but it's just they don't really develop that much. She's just kind of like, well, I had to learn to forgive and forget. Right. It's like, really? That was a 180.
Yeah, man. I understand. I understand that this movie, it shakes up the formula. And I do appreciate that. I think, so I don't know if you know this, but I mean, The Exorcist is like maybe one of my favorite horror movies of all time, if not my favorite horror movie of all time. And Blumhouse, who I don't really trust with any property that I love, but Blumhouse is going to reboot the Exorcist trilogy. Of course, the trilogy means nothing to me, but the standalone film is fantastic, so I'm interested. And at the helm, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that is this team, the creative team behind the Halloween trilogy. I still have faith in this creative team because I see the vision. I see the desire to do something new and to shake it up. It's kind of like what Carpenter wanted to do with the third Halloween movie, Season of the Witch. He wanted to shake it up. He wanted to go beyond Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. And today, that has gotten more appreciation. That particular movie. How do you feel about Season of the Witch?
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. That movie's bad. That movie's really bad. It's the same plot as that one Goosebumps episode / book. And I really like the Goosebumps book more.
Well, that is now getting more popular. That movie, I think it's getting a cult following.
It's just goofy. It's so goofy.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
It's not scary. It's just dumb.
I get why people appreciate it in the context of the Halloween franchise, but I'm not going to sit here on my soapbox and pretend it's a good movie because it's not. It's a crappy movie. It's not good. It doesn't matter that it did something different. That's cool, sure. I appreciate the attempt. But it's no Shawshank. And for us to pretend that it is ridiculous. This movie, it blew. Point blank period. It wasn't good. Everything from, I'd say after the 30 minutes, it became apparent this movie was only going to go downhill. And it did. The synth techno emo scenes of them riding on the motorcycle together, Allison and Corey, is something out of Degrassi: The Next Generation. It was awful.
He was the bad boy. They do that writing. Sexy, the writing, yeah.
The dialogue. Laurie Strode's lines alone were some of the most cringe-worthy things I've seen in a movie this year. And I watched Texas Chainsaw this year. For us to sit here and pretend that this movie was anything other than mediocre is bold. It's bad. It's not a good movie. But I still respect the creative team for trying to do something different. Both can be true. Both can be true. They missed. That, simply put, they missed.
Yeah. I like that. I will not elaborate on this remark, but the people who watched Twilight and thought it was high art, that was a great movie, they love this movie. That's who loves this movie.
Yeah. That might be who loves this movie.
That's who loves this movie. Oh, man. That felt so cathartic.
Well, I've been holding that in for a week because you and I we just left the theater after we watched it. We went our separate ways.
Yeah.
And we didn't we didn't unpack, and I think we never really unpack because we know that we're going to talk about it, so we try to save our reactions, but I needed to talk about it.
Yeah. Another huge thing for me though and this isn't really. I mean, it is this movie's fault for being in this trilogy, but for me, I went home and I was like, my bloodlust is not satiated. You know, I I wanted some more killing. Oh man, the killing's lame in this movie. Some of it happens off screen. Most of it is just kind of basic stabbing or whatever. There is one
Yeah.
really good kill though, where a disc jockey gets his tongue cut off and the tongue it falls onto a vinyl record and is spinning with the record, which is
That was
hilarious
good.
because no radio station in 2022 uses vinyl records, but
Maybe in Haddonfield, Illinois.
I guess they do in Haddonfield.
I gotta say, man, I didn't dislike, and I am not the first to make this comparison, but I totally see it now. I am not gonna lie to you and tell you that I didn't enjoy the Anakin and Palpatine like thing that was going on between Corey and Michael. I liked it, and I think it makes for an interesting film. Yeah, especially if we would have been told that Michael was weaker because of his age. That, of course, didn't happen, but irregardless, it was an interesting choice. And I was kind of into it when it was happening. I thought it was interesting. I wanted to see them storm into more homes and kill more people. Because the scene with the doctor and like the gold digging nurse was kind of fun, in my opinion. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was actually a really well shot sequence. They break into his very luxurious home, and Corey is brutally stabbing him. First, he suffocates him with a bag, and then the nurse, I don't know her name, but she's this like bombshell redhead nurse that is clearly with him for the money. She makes several comments about how much she loves his home, and she works at the same clinic that Allison works at, and Allison thought that she was a shoe-in for the promotion, but this nurse gets it instead, and we learn later on why she's getting the promotion, probably because she's schmoozing with the doctor, but I digress. It's this pretty tight sequence where she's, getting all dolled up, about to shower and wear her silk pajamas that she was gifted, and she hears a scream or something, and rushes and finds Corey like a goblin hunched over the doctor, stabbing him in the neck brutally as a bag is over the doctor's head. And she runs, and Michael catches her and pins her to the wall in, of course, a throwback to a kill from the original Halloween. I enjoyed that sequence. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I did too. It's also, I will point out, the only kill Michael gets independently. If you even want to call that independently,
right.
Corey's there too, but
You're right. Because earlier in the film, they do kill that creepy cop, but Corey like holds him up.
yeah, he holds him down
in
so
this,
Michael
like,
can kill him. Yeah.
was it just me, or did that scene feel pseudo-sexual? It was kind of weird. It was like Corey was like gasping and moaning as he lifts up the guy's body for Michael.
Oh, maybe it's the serotonin rush you get from stabbing a person. Maybe is similar.
Oh yeah, very relatable.
Yeah. Well, you can draw the comparison. You could. That's the character.
Yeah, that is the character.
Okay, this is another thing for me. The problem with this movie is the fact that he lets Corey go, and that Corey's. I don't want Michael Myers to be anything other than a mannequin with a knife. No personality, no thought, nothing. You don't know what he's just a guy, he's just killing people, you don't know why, but he's doing it. That's it. That's as deep as I want that character to go. He's literally faceless, and I want that to maintain. I think Michael Myers is one of the greatest monsters in the horror genre, as bold as that is. But he is because he represents every irrational suburban fear. He is the boogeyman. He's like the random stranger that is breaking into your house to kill you without motive, He's that. And that's why he's so scary. And to make him more than that is kind of taking away the all-encompassing facelessness. He represents the crime more than he does a character.
Right.
And I don't like him being a character. I like him being faceless mannequin. So I don't like him having a little protege. I don't like him having a little, friend. I don't like him thinking, because it means he's thought about it and he's accepted this guy. And I don't like that. I want him to just mindlessly kill everything.
That is a good point. This franchise as a whole has had a hard time recognizing what it wants Michael to be. Or I guess I should say realizing what it wants Michael to be. They go from the face of evil, sheer evil, to like cult leader later on in the franchise, to immortal demigod face of evil later on in the franchise, to whatever the hell he becomes in the Blumhouse trilogy. And it's tough because it's the reason I wouldn't call myself a Halloween fan. People talk about this franchise like it's, and I know I say this with no disrespect because I know that you are a Halloween fan.
Ride or die, baby.
I know. But for me, there's just not enough consistency in any of these entries for me to call myself a fan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It might be unfair.
No, I think that's fair. Because like I said, quality just plummets. After
I'm a Leprechaun fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Leprechaun fan, and there are certainly some dips in those movies, and there isn't necessarily one consistent storyline or a consistent sense of character in any of the entries in the franchise, but the movie is aware, the franchise, I should say, is aware of itself. It's got an awareness to its tone, an awareness of its place in horror. And for me, Halloween's just been grasping for so long. And this ending, and I know it's not the end, but to call yourself Halloween Ends, I expect more. I just expect more. And I really hate to rag on this movie as much as we are. I know that that's kind of all we've done, but save for a few solid kills and save for what I consider a really interesting 30 opening minutes, I think this movie is just kind of lame. And as a trilogy ender, I don't know, man.
No, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is kind of a disconnected thought, but another thing I don't really like about this movie is its portrayal of the place that is Haddonfield, Illinois. In the original movie, Haddonfield, Illinois is any suburb anywhere. Just like Micheal Myers is any murderer, home invader, stalker, what have you. Haddonfield, Illinois is supposed to be just on any suburb. It could be anywhere. It could be your suburb. That's kind of what's scary about it. And here, in this movie, they make it seem, and I guess they kind of do this in the other movies, in this trilogy, but they kind of make it seem like it's Derry, Maine, and Micheal Myers is it. He's even lurking in the sewers in this movie, and like he's infected the town, and now malice runs rampant, not only in Micheal Myers, but in the hearts of its denizens. And I don't like that. It's pretty kind of dumb, and they never do anything with it, really. Like, people just hate Laurie in this movie because Micheal Myers kills people, and I really don't understand how this is Laurie's fault at all, or why people would even connect her to the Myers killings,
One of the best sequences in Halloween Kills is that really tragic death of the couple that's like playing around in the kitchen. They have this silly toy drone, and he's like cooking or something, and she's flying the drone around, and they're having that cute, pretty solid David Gordon Green dialogue. He's pretty good at like writing cutesy character interactions. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich interaction from the first movie comes to mind. But anyway, the couple's talking, right? They're hanging out, and Micheal Myers comes in and just brutalizes this man and she freezes in fear, and he shoves a light bulb in her neck. Also, I should describe the light bulb, one of those long fluorescent tube light bulbs. We, of course, are left to believe she died because, duh. But we learn in this movie that she is very much alive, just incapacitated after that incident. She can't speak. She can't walk. Her life has been changed forever. This is important because I think her sister in this movie confronts Laurie Strode outside of like an Aldi. And she's like, "You're that lady, right? The one that teased that mentally ill man and made him come to our town and kill people and almost murder my sister." And it's like, is that what you got from that? Like, you didn't... In what way was she teasing him?
Well, it's her fault, not the like guy who killed 40 plus people.
Also, but like, how did they keep that line was happening a lot with several characters. You teased him. You did this. You couldn't leave him alone. How? She was paranoid in the first movie. She had fears and she was preparing. But she didn't reach out. She didn't call. She didn't write letters. She did it on her own. She didn't do anything. She existed. So I guess what they were going for, but even that falls flat. It doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand.
Yeah. Michael escapes off a prison bus too. Like, it really isn't Laurie's fault. Another thing is in Halloween 2018, in the clunkiest dialogue, I think, in the whole movie. At the very beginning, Laurie's granddaughter's talking to her friends. They make a point to say that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are not related, like they are in the second movie. And that it's a rumor. She's not really Michael Myers' sister. They're actually not related. So they've gone out of their way in establishing this disconnect from Laurie and Michael. You know, Laurie's been preparing for Michael Myers, but to Michael Myers, Laurie Strode is another one of the tens of people who he just tried to kill. She's no one to Michael. So I don't know why they're suddenly trying to connect them again.
Yeah. You actually, I didn't even think about that until you kind of described it just now, but you're right. That's my point. I'm telling you, I started to doubt myself after we watched this movie because I was concerned that maybe we were too harsh in our critiques after our initial viewing, but I think people again are trying too hard to pretend they like this.
Yeah.
I don't think they're being honest. Or, of course, everybody has their own opinion. You and I both enjoyed Kroll. So whatever. I know that people will like what they like, but I stand by it. I think this movie's not good. And you can enjoy it. That's fine. But I'm telling you, I watched so many interviews, so many reviews where people were so indignant and so condescending towards folks that didn't like it. Literally doing voices like, "Oh, I didn't like it because Michael wasn't in it." But this movie's not good despite that. And I think you and I both agree on that.
And even if it is base level, Michael's not in it. Like, that's the movie people were sold. So when they go to the theater and not see that movie, like, can you blame them for not being happy? Like, when we were in the theater, it was packed. And, like, clearly everybody had shown up. And they just wanted to go, ooh, ah. Like, that's why they were there. So they could react to gruesome kills. Like we did in Halloween Kills. And you couldn't really do that in this movie. The fun of, mindless slasher is not in this movie, and that's what most people came for. So, I don't know. As a Halloween fan, like you have said, and now I self-describe, I want to like this movie. I really wanted to. I feel like I like Halloween Kills a little more than the next guy, because I love this franchise, and it so often does not get good entries. I'm really grasping here, but I cannot like this movie. I just can't bring myself to do so. I did not enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I didn't either, and I don't know. Maybe watch it if you can. Our theater, at first, it was funny because the crowd was rough. People were showing up late, and uh, I just didn't get a good vibe from the crowd. But eventually, I realized it was a pretty good horror crowd. People were reacting, yelling at people that were being stupid in the movie, and I enjoyed that. But you and I turned to each other and we said it. The crowd in that movie deserved better, and I would not pay full ticket price to watch this movie. And I can't, in good conscience, tell anybody to do so.
No, yeah. Yeah. The bloodlust wasn't satiated. Everybody kind of didn't get all those kills they wanted, you know. I will give, to this movie's credit, those last 10 minutes, if you can, separate them from the rest of the movie. And they are very, very disconnected from the rest of the movie. That showdown between Laurie and Michael is pretty good. It lasts 10 minutes, though. You know? They interrupted the ending of the movie we were watching to bring you Micheal Myers again, who you came for, sure, but it was not the story they were telling. I did like the fight, though. It was pretty, final. Halloween does end.
Yeah, I enjoyed the finality of it, too. Is that a word? Finality?
Yeah.
Finality? I enjoyed that. I liked Micheal Myers getting thrown into the meat grinder. I liked the shot.
That was crazy. Yeah.
I like the town doing it with them. I wish the movie would have built to it, and it didn't. And you can't have that grandiose ending of people assigning this importance to Micheal Myers and walking him to a meat grinder and doing a parade with a body strapped to a car if we see him kill one person. And not only that, at the beginning of the movie, he is an old, weak man covered in poop in a sewer. I'm adding the poop. He's not actually covered in poop, but I like to imagine he is. I just don't buy it. And so it was this really cool ending, in my opinion, with no build.
It felt like that scene was written separately than the rest of this script. Like maybe they wrote it at the end of Halloween Kills, and they were like, "No, we're gonna have another movie. We'll save it for then." It
wasn't earned.
It feels in place in the context of the entire franchise and the trilogy, but it feels out of context and out of place within this movie in particular, like within this own movie. But yeah,
I agree.
Those were my thoughts. I feel
mine too.
I feel so much lighter after saying it all.
Is that the episode?
I think that is. I mean, I said it all. I knew it'd be a shorter one, but
no, that's good though. Yeah. In essence, rent it when it's on Redbox or it's streaming on HBO Max. I suppose, but I would not pay a ticket for it ever again.
Or just don't watch it. Pretend this franchise ends with that second movie, Halloween Kills. Because at the end of Halloween Kills, Micheal Myers gets up and escapes into the night. And in a way, isn't that how all the Halloweens end? Maybe it's a tradition that the Halloween movies end that way. It always leaves the door for an ambiguous, where is Michael? What could happen next? Will he keep killing? I guess he does, Maybe keep that door open and just pretend it ends there. Well, I guess that's it for me. Thank you for joining me, Adrian.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. I'm glad we got to see it together at the very least.
Yeah, it was good to spend time with you. It was good to at least have something to look forward to and something to bring us together in the spirit of the holiday season.
I agree. I gotta say, I watched Curse of Micheal Myers recently, and Return of Micheal Myers recently, and I think we should cover it.
I think that will probably have to be our next episode. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Goodbye.